49ers wide receiver in the front row. Embiid loses it, hits the floor, trying to save it. Ball knocked around. Curry, he's got the angle and the bucket. And Embiid is down. Joel Embiid is down on the ground.
Yeah, this will be the end of his night. He looks like he is in a great deal of pain here. Excellent defense by Kuminga. Oh,
I was right there.
Landed right on his leg, probably hyperextended.
Yo, what's up, basketball fans? We got some major breaking news coming out of Philadelphia, and trust me, this one is a game changer. Joel Embiid, the reigning 2023 MVP, is officially out for the season. Yeah, you heard that right. The process has been halted once again. Now let's take a second to really process this, because this isn't just some minor setback. We're talking about the heart and soul of the Philadelphia 76ers, the guy who was averaging MVP-level numbers, dominating both ends of the floor, and single-handedly keeping Philly in the conversation as a legit contender. And now, boom, gone. Just like that. So what does this mean for the Sixers? How will this impact their playoff hopes? And maybe even more importantly, what does this mean for their long-term future? Are we looking at another wasted season? Another what-if in the Embiid era? Or could this actually open the door for some unexpected changes? Let's break it all down because there's a lot to unpack here. Joel Embiid was having an absolutely historic season before disaster struck. We're talking about one of the most dominant offensive performances the league has ever seen. He wasn't just putting up big numbers. He was making history on a nightly basis. Game after game, Embiid was torching defenders, dropping 40, 50, even 60 points while barely breaking a sweat. He was scoring at a rate we haven't seen since Wilt Chamberlain, putting up more points than minutes played, something that almost feels impossible in today's NBA. Every night, it felt like we were witnessing something special, something legendary. But then, everything changed in an instant. On January 30, 2024, in a matchup against the Golden State Warriors, disaster struck. Late in the game, Golden State's Jonathan Kuminga was driving to the basket, lost his balance, and accidentally fell onto Embiid's left leg. Immediately, you could tell something was wrong. Embiid hit the floor in pain, grabbing his knee as the entire Wells Fargo Center went silent. Fans held their breath, teammates looked on in shock, and the Sixers' championship hopes took a massive hit. At first, there was optimism. The initial report suggested Embiid had avoided the worst-case scenario, but as more details emerged, it became clear that this was serious. He underwent surgery on his knee soon after, but the injury never truly healed the way the team had hoped. Despite extensive rehab, the pain lingered. Still, Embiid being Embiid, he pushed through. He made a late-season return, fighting through discomfort to try and lead his team in the playoffs. Even after the Sixers season ended, he continued playing, suiting up for Team USA in the Olympics and helping them secure a gold medal. But no matter what he did, the knee just wouldn't hold up. And now, after months of trying to power through, the Sixers have made the difficult decision to shut him down for the rest of the 2024-25 season. It's a devastating blow for the team, the fans, and Embiid himself, who has been battling injuries his entire career. The big question now is, what's next? How will this impact the Sixers' immediate future? And more importantly, what does this mean for Embiid's long-term health and legacy? Let's break it all down. With Embiid out, Philadelphia's season is in serious trouble. There's no sugarcoating it. This is a nightmare scenario for the Sixers. Even with Embiid in the lineup, they were struggling to stay afloat, sitting at 20-38 and way outside the playoff picture at 12th in the Eastern Conference. Now, without their franchise centerpiece, their postseason hopes are basically non-existent. The Sixers were already dealing with inconsistency, injuries, and chemistry issues, but losing Embiid officially shuts the door on any realistic playoff aspirations. And that brings up another big question. What happens with Paul George? The Sixers brought him in to be the perfect co-star alongside Embiid, but with the big man sidelined for the rest of the season, does it even make sense to keep playing George at full strength? Will the team shut him down too? He's a veteran, he's been dealing with his own nagging injuries over the years, and at this point, does it really make sense for him to risk his health in what's quickly becoming a lost season? The front office might decide to take the cautious approach and sit him out for the remainder of the year. If that happens, the focus immediately shifts to the future. Right now, the Sixers have the 6th worst record in the NBA, which puts them in a prime position for a high lottery pick. If they land in the top 3, that could be a franchise-altering moment. Bringing in a young superstar alongside Embiid and George could set them up for long-term success. But that leads to another debate. Will they fully embrace the tank? Will they shut down their top players, prioritize development, and go all in on securing the best draft odds? Or will they still try to be competitive and salvage what's left of the season? Right now, it's all up in the air, and the Sixers have some major decisions to make in the coming weeks. Embiid has already undergone 2 knee surgeries on the same meniscus, one in 2017 and another in 2024. And yet, despite all the medical procedures, rehab, and recovery efforts, the problem still hasn't been fully resolved. Now, doctors are facing a difficult decision. What's the next step? If 2 surgeries haven't completely fixed the issue, is another one even worth the risk? Or are more drastic measures needed? Right now, there are a couple of potential options on the table. One possibility is another meniscus repair or even a full meniscus transplant, which would help restore stability in his knee, but would require significant recovery time. Another more extreme option is an osteotomy, a procedure where doctors literally break and realign a bone in his knee to adjust how weight is distributed. It's a serious operation, one that could take months, if not a full year, for a complete recovery. That means there's a real possibility that Embiid's absence could extend beyond just this season and into next year as well. In the meantime, he's been receiving injections to promote healing, but those are more of a short-term fix rather than a permanent solution. The reality is no one, doctors, coaches, or even Embiid himself, knows what the long-term outcome will be. One thing is certain though, the Sixers' future hinges on the health of their superstar, and right now, there are more questions than answers. What does this mean for the Sixers' future? The lottery race without Embiid, Philly's season is all but over, and that actually has a huge impact on their draft situation. Right now, the Sixers' first-round pick is top 6 protected, meaning if they land anywhere in the top 6, they keep it. If not, it goes to another team. With Embiid sidelined, Philly is much more likely to slide further down the standings, which increases their chances of securing that pick. If they manage to drop to the 4th worst record, they'll have an 81% chance of keeping it. That could be a franchise-changing moment, especially if they land a high lottery pick in a strong draft class. The big question now is whether the front office fully embraces the tank or still tries to win games. Embiid's massive contract. Another major factor is Embiid's contract. This isn't like his 2017 extension, which had injury protection built in. This time around, the Sixers are fully committed. He's owed a staggering $248 million over the next 4 years, regardless of how much time he misses. That kind of financial commitment severely limits Philly's flexibility. The only way to get any real cap relief is if doctors officially ruled his injury career-ending, which seems highly unlikely at this stage. The best they can do is apply for a disabled player exception if he misses all of next season, but even that would only open up a small amount of extra cap space, not nearly enough to replace a player of Embiid's caliber. Free agency and roster moves. Philly isn't just tied to Embiid financially. They have also got massive commitments to Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, bringing their total salary obligations to nearly $800 million over the next several years. That means free agency flexibility is basically non-existent unless they find a way to move some contracts. Their ability to reshape the roster will likely come down to draft luck and whether key role players like Kelly Oubre Jr. and Andrew Drummond decide to pick up their player options. If they do, Philly will have even less room to maneuver. At this point, the Sixers are at a crossroads. Do they try to build a contender around an aging and injury-prone Embiid? Do they pivot to a long-term rebuild? Or do they attempt a risky win-now move, knowing their financial options are limited? The decisions made in the next few months could define this franchise for years to come. What about George and Maxey? Paul George. This season has been nothing short of a disaster for PG-13 in Philadelphia. When the Sixers signed him to a 4-year, $212 million contract, the expectation was that he would be the perfect co-star for Embiid, an elite two-way wing who could bring veteran leadership and playoff experience. Instead, things have completely fallen apart. George is averaging just 16.1 PPG, his lowest since his second year in the league, and his efficiency has taken a serious hit. He's struggling to find his rhythm in the offense, his defensive impact isn't what it used to be, and with Embiid now sidelined for the rest of the season, his role on this team is suddenly in question. Does George want to stick around for a potential rebuild, or does Philly consider shopping him in the offseason to regain some flexibility? Right now, that $212 million contract is looking like a major financial burden, especially if his production continues to decline. Tyrese Maxey. If there's one positive for the Sixers this season, it's Tyrese Maxey. The 23-year-old guard has taken another leap. replicating his all-star numbers from last season and proving that he's capable of leading this team offensively. He's been the heart and soul of the Sixers, bringing energy, scoring, and playmaking night after night. With Embiid's future uncertain and George struggling, Maxey is now the clear face of the franchise moving forward. But that raises a critical question. Who will be his running mate? If the Sixers commit to building around Maxey, they need to find the right co-star. Whether that's a high lottery pick, a major trade acquisition, or even a healthy Embiid down the line. Right now, it's all up in the air, but one thing is clear. Maxey is the future of the franchise. The Sixers just have to figure out the right pieces to put around him. This is a nightmare scenario for Philadelphia. Embiid's injury doesn't just derail this season, it throws their entire future into uncertainty. The big question on everyone's mind: will Embiid ever be the same dominant force again? His future is now in serious doubt, and with his ongoing knee issues, it's hard to predict when or if he'll ever return to MVP-level form. On top of that, the Sixers have to face a tough decision. Will they tear it all down and start over? With a hefty commitment to Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, the team is locked in financially, and their options moving forward are limited. Do they fully embrace a rebuild, or will they try to patch things up and stay competitive? And what about the NBA draft? Could they get a lucky break and land a top pick that could change everything for the franchise? For now, all Sixers fans can do is wait and hope that for once the basketball gods will finally smile on Philly and bring some good fortune. What do you think? Should the Sixers tank for the future? Can Embiid ever be the same again? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more NBA updates.